Hey troops, what's going on? My name's Ryan and I'm a former commando from the United Kingdom. Today we're going to be reacting to Army Rangers Smoked Some Crips in 1989. Look forward to this one, guys. I've literally watched about a minute's worth on a channel that I like, and I'm going to do a reaction on it. I think it's going to be pretty cool. So let's waste no time. Let's get into it. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Saturday, September 23rd, 1989. An Army Ranger who had just purchased a home on one of Tacoma, Washington's most gang-infested streets quickly became a witness to various illegal activity happening out front of his home. He wasn't shy of confronting it or notifying the authorities, and soon after, he became the target of one of the most notorious street gangs Washington State has ever seen. And after shaking up the hornet's nest one too many...
The music sounds like something off Dr. Disrespect. It's, yeah, pretty cool.
Times, his home was ambushed by the Hilltop Crips gang, but not before he invited 15 of his Ranger buddies over for a barbecue. 300...
Oh man, Army Rangers Smoked Some Crips. Either group, okay, is going to be fearsome, isn't it, really? If you weren't an Army Ranger and you didn't have a load of buddies, you'd probably be a little scared. But the fact that you are an Army Ranger, you've got some buddies, they thought, hey, let's have a smoke, let's have a shootout, man.
Rounds, and 10 minutes later, the Crips were fighting for their lives.
Right, so if anyone knows about this, drop a comment below. This is some movie shit.
In 1989, the neighborhood of Ash Street in Tacoma, Washington was an open-air drug market. There were several hotspots, and almost every house on the block was an active and thriving trap house. These gang infestations in the 1980s, born from the crack epidemic, flooded the streets and created an economic downturn that defined the decade. You might remember President Ronald Reagan declaring the war on drugs, or his first lady who was just like, just say no, oh my god. That was this time. Tacoma was Washington State's ground zero of gang activity, and by the summer of 1989, it had grown blatant, middle of the day type shit, like selling crack to the ice cream man type shit. And this was...
Thing is, the war on drugs, in my limited knowledge, hasn't worked. If anything, it's like done more for drugs and the importation of drugs and the profit making from drugs over the past 20, 30, 40 years. It's crazy, man. You can get drugs anywhere. It's just one of those things that has failed. It hasn't really worked.
It was all fueled by an influx of gang members moving in from California. Tacoma police had experienced nothing like it before and were really struggling to get it under control, oftentimes not even knowing how to respond to it. Ash Street neighbors consistently called police and called 911 repeatedly and got nowhere. The typical response from police at the time was very mild. Community-oriented policing was a new thing, such as taking bullshit calls and pretending like it's not bullshit.
Yes,
That sounds like pretty much the military, okay? Pretending that it isn't bullshit, the task that you're doing, but in reality, the task that you're doing is bullshit. Anyone who served in the military will be able to vouch what I've just said there. There's a lot of bullshitty jobs. You know, you just got to pretend and get on with it.
ma'am. I know you can't sleep when the dogs are barking.
But community policing was still viewed with suspicion by veteran cops who came up in the 60s and preferred the old ways, like smacking people in the head with their portable radios. At the time, Tacoma Police Chief Ray Fatelin pushed these new community policing programs so far that the Hilltop Crip Gang rose to power.
When the OGs from work like HTC, when we mounted up the streets 200 deep in the park, had a shootout with cats from Ash. When the Ashley's connected with them Hilltop niggas, had a shootout and chased out from Cali.
Staff Sergeant William Foulk of the 2nd Ranger Battalion 75th Ranger Regiment purchased his home on Ash Street in hopes that the neighborhood would soon turn around.
No, he didn't. He didn't purchase it with the hopes that the neighborhood would turn around. He purchased it so he could get his home to work duty allowance, and he had a place to go every once in a while because he's gone deployment 9-10 months of the year. He doesn't give a shit about if the estate gets better. He's a ranger, for Christ's sake.
Protect that investment, he was determined to help push the drugs and gangs out by any means necessary.
Oh, this is so far-fetched. It's unbelievable. We've got Rambo on the streets here who's wanting to help the local community.
Which may seem crazy to most people, but Staff Sergeant Foulk was not most people. He was an elite operator.
Right, enough of the Mickey Tate, and I'm going to give him a chance now. Let's see what the crack is, seriously now.
Who at a moment's notice could hit hard and smash fucking everything. You know, Ranger shit. But violence was the last thing the Staff Sergeant wanted. And
No, it wasn't. He's a Ranger. It was the first thing he wanted. Let's get that straight.
He remained optimistic. In the summer of 1989, Foulk returned from a December deployment in Panama to find the neighborhood worse than when he left. Along with other neighbors who were honest, hardworking people, he formed a neighborhood group that pressed police, demanding action. The neighbors started making signs, protesting, and taking pictures of the drug dealers. Even as the tension on Ash Street rose, Chief Fatelin made a decision he would later regret. Hamstrung by budget constraints and desperately short on the patrol side, he shifted 4 of 6 officers away from the Hilltop Crime Management Team to launch a community policing pilot project. The neighbors on Ash Street reacted with dismay. Under fire from citizens and the city council, a local Tribune covered the controversy, noting efforts by Ash Street neighbors to monitor the drug activity themselves. After the News Tribune piece, drug traffic on Ash Street slowed, but only so much. Staff Sergeant Foulk was used to seeing more than 100 cars pass through his block on any given day.
Yeah, to be honest, that would piss me right off, but it's... I would like to think him being in the Rangers, he would have a little bit better judgment as to where he would possibly buy his house. I know it's hard in the military. We're not on that much money. Although I speak for myself, in the British military, I don't think we're on good money. I struggled to buy my first house when I was in the military until I literally just left. That's when I had the ability to get my first home, and even then we were helped gratefully via my mum's, via my missus's father. So we had a lot of help. Now, this guy, he's obviously bought a house in a shithole area. I don't know how easy it is for you guys in the States to buy property, so I can't really comment on that.
After the story appeared, it was down to 20 cars. Foulk decided to install a video camera in his upstairs window to record the traffic. He organized a neighborhood barbecue as a show of public unity, set for 3 p.m. Saturday, September 23rd. He invited neighbors, friends, Ranger buddies, and thought nothing more of it. The day of the barbecue, a group of Hilltop Crip gangbangers acknowledged Foulk outside of his residence and gave him the gun finger. It came from a car full of Crips. Driving by his house, the index finger pointed, thumb up, a little flip of the hand, and the mouthed words, boom, boom.
Yeah, I don't think that kind of threat's going to really do anything to the likes of an Army Ranger, especially one who's just came back from Panama. If I'm right, 1989, in around that time, there was a bit of a coup in that area, I believe. Let me know if I'm wrong with that, guys. I think I remember it correctly. So yeah, this guy's not really going to be bothered too much about intimidation tactics. All right, if anything, he's the intimidator. He's the guy who he knows he can intimidate people if he wanted to. I don't think he's going to be bothered too much about threats. If you're going to do something, you're going to do it, aren't you? Now that makes sense.
The gangsters saw the video camera on Foulk's house, and a few hours later they returned and threw rocks at it. Someone else took shots at the house and the video camera with a BB gun. Foulk and a few Ranger buddies then walked across the street to confront the out-of-shape, chain-smoking gangbangers who think they're hard. Foulk...
So he shows a picture of the Island Boys. Oh, man. In fact, them dudes are real punks. They stormed off the, was it the Logan Paul podcast? Impulsive. Yeah, that's what majority of gangbangers are like anyway, really, aren't they? 90% of them,
Told them to stop throwing things at his home and the neighbors' homes, to stop shooting BBs, and to instead turn their lives around and find better ways. The gangbangers warned him to take the camera out of his window. The gangbangers suggested the staff sergeant didn't know who he was dealing with. The staff sergeant suggested the gangbangers didn't know who they were dealing with.
I'm getting goosebumps, man. These things happen all the time, believe it or not. All right, I've heard of these stories happening in the United Kingdom, not necessarily with gang members, but ex-military, and you get a local punk wanting to have a go. And they get the up-and-comings. They just don't know who they're dealing with. I've had it many times myself, and I'm not trying to say I'm anything special or anything, but I've had close encounters with people who I know I could literally destroy. But what's the point? What's the point? What am I going to get out of that situation other than getting in trouble? But you do see this all of the time.
They then told him, "Your history, bitch," and told him they were going to burn his house down and light him up as soon as the sun goes down.
Right, is he just quoting words from like a gangster vocabulary dictionary or something? You know, he's coming out with some right belters there.
Foulk decided to walk away, and before he returned to his home, he overheard one of the Crips stating, "I'm gonna shoot that army son of a bitch." Foulk then walked inside his house, he picked up his telephone, called some more of his Ranger buddies from the 2nd Ranger Battalion, and invited them over for a barbecue, suggesting it wouldn't hurt if they came armed. With translation, bring your own bullet.
Oh, this is absolutely awesome, man. The thing is, they're not going to get away with this kind of shit either. You know, it's not as if they're immune to the law. Okay, even Rambo went to a bloody, you know, a military prison where he was doing hard labor, and he was a fictional bloody character.
Hey guys, let's have a barbecue. Okay, well, yeah. What are we gonna smoke? Just some Crips.
This has got to be the best video I've ever seen, man.
Including the few Rangers who were already at the barbecue and the Rangers called, the total of Rangers grew to 15. Foulk told them to bring personal weapons and whatever else they had. They came armed to the teeth with handguns, shotguns, and rifles.
Please, someone tell me that this can't be real. I mean, this is fantastic.
Foulk was armed with a Browning 9mm and a Colt Python 357 Magnum. Fucking Magnum. Who's the gangster now, bitch?
Yeah, you're gonna get your head blown clean off.
Over a couple beers, Foulk pitched to his buddies a defensive operation of his home. Stake out locations and wait, no first moves. If police come, disarm immediately, cooperate, and assist. And all of his buddies joyfully agreed and were fucking down. They thought maybe nothing will happen, but if it does, zero tolerance for dudes shooting gats and smoking Swisher Sweets. As the sun went down, the Rangers dispersed into their defensive positions, alert and observant.
I can't believe this, because this is something that the drunk version of me would like to, you know, organize in the same kind of situation. Me and my buddies would talk like this, you know. It's only a few days ago I was drunk with some of my Marine buddies, and we're talking shit like this. But these guys are not just talking shit; they're actually doing it, man. They've got drunken defensive positions at a barbecue, armed to the teeth with guns, because you can do that in America, ready to take on some Crips. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, and it's only something I can imagine military guys doing, that's for sure.
Of any and all activity inside and outside the perimeter of the house. A few hours had passed as the Rangers held their positions. One Ranger observed a vehicle approaching in the distance at a slow rate of speed, at which point the vehicle shut off its headlights. Foulk, with his Magnum in hand, returned the favor and turned out the lights in his house and
oh, this is brilliant.
in the yard. At 9:20 p.m., as the vehicle approached, someone within the vehicle fired a shot into the air. The house was now taking fire from the rear, where, according to police reports, small caliber automatic gunfire was heard. The Rangers opened a shit ton of fire, but so did the Hilltop Crips. One of the Rangers, William Edwards, was posted on the front porch. When the shooting started, he hit the ground as a bullet slammed into the wall beside him. He and other Rangers returned fire, seeing figures running amongst parked cars on the other side of the street. Ranger Russell Nolte, posted in the backyard, crawled forward as a shot hit the back of the house 3 feet over his head. Ranger Burr Settles was posted upstairs by the infamous controversial fucking video camera as a shot came through the window. The bullet grazed his head and he received multiple lacerations on his face from the shattered glass. Numerous muzzle flashes were now seen from the east. There were at least 16 shooters.
Right, the thing I want to know is this something where these Ranger guys would get punished for? I know in England you probably would. The police here are pretty ruthless in that regard. They're not going to favour you any more or less if you're in the military. I wouldn't have thought anyway. You're gonna get in trouble. But I would like to know if these guys are going to be like subject to the law, because I mean technically what they're doing is just defending their home, you know, after threats. Technically they should have gotten the police involved anyway, but I don't know. The rules are different in America, man. I wouldn't be surprised if these guys kind of got let off with this whole thing, but I guess we're going to find out.
3 different locations. The Rangers again returned fire, while outside the assailants took cover amongst the parked cars, shooting over their shoulders, ducking down, shooting blindly. You know, stupid shit like that, like gangsters do. At this time, a neighbor taking cover on her kitchen floor dialed 911. And just like the famous Wild West shootout at the OK Corral, it was over in minutes. 10 minutes to be exact. The first police car came down the middle of the street, cherries and berries on, with his siren blaring. The Rangers dropped their weapons, but as that first patrol car arrived on scene, one of the Hilltop Crip gang members popped a round off, sending the patrol car reversing out of the scene so quickly, smoke was seen coming from the rear tire.
This might put the Rangers at a bit of in a bad situation here, because there's been shots fired towards the police now. So I don't know if the police is going to get this one right. I hope they do.
Officers in the car reported hearing 50 to 60 shots in less than 1 minute. Shortly after, more cops pulled into the block and the gangbangers ran.
I can't get over this music, man. This music literally reminds me of a stream on Dr. Disrespect's YouTube channel. Seriously.
The unarmed staff sergeant walked out the back door to his driveway and the alley behind his house. He felt someone behind and didn't fight. A hand shoved his head down and a voice ordered him to the ground. One gang member by the name of Frankie Strickland was cornered by a police canine and found to be in possession of 16 rounds of 9mm. He said he was holding them for a friend but couldn't remember the friend's name.
Yeah, of course he didn't.
No, like a fucking liar. He also said the same thing about the pistol he was carrying. It was for a friend. Another suspect was carrying copper-headed rounds for a gas gun. Once the situation was under control and the officers learned about the Rangers' defensive operation, the responding sergeant of the Tacoma Police Department wasn't too happy about it. He lectured Foulk and the other Rangers for not calling the police for...
That's kind of what I was thinking. It's like, well, yeah, I get it, but you know, you're not the law around here still, and you do have to abide by the law, you know, not to be a killjoy here, but if they just literally told him, the shootout wouldn't have happened. But then again, you know, the police haven't been doing anything in the area anywhere for years and years, hence the reason there's loads of drugs on the streets in the first place. So maybe this is something that that street needed.
Resistance until shots were fired. Felt that the situation may have been avoided by calling 911 prior to the shooting getting started. Out of what was quite possibly a 35-man gunfight with over 300 rounds shot in the dark, no one was reported to be killed or injured. For 20 years, the official version of the shootout held that miraculously no one was hurt, but there were rumors injured gang members did not seek medical attention for obvious reasons. And
yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that these guys would, you know, there's a bit of honor within gangland, isn't there, really? Let's face it. And a lot of them wouldn't have wanted to go seek medical help anyway because they probably have incriminated themselves in the process.
Some may have even been mortally wounded. And according to Foulk himself, during the firefight, one gang member rushed towards Foulk's house. I guess he thought he was going to John Wayne it, Foulk remembered. One of the Rangers took aim and hit the gangster in the shoulder. The attacker staggered back and ran away. The moment goes unmentioned in police reports and witness accounts of the time. Unverified gossip holds that the wounded man was treated at a Seattle area hospital, over an hour away from Tacoma.
I can believe that. Yeah, I think that makes a bit of sense.
Doug Sutherland, who was mayor at the time, pondered a declaration of a citywide version of martial law to combat the gang violence that immediately drew national attention. The city of Tacoma found the dollars to add more police officers to their department. Then Governor Booth Gardner even considered sending in the National Guard.
Honestly, I was literally just about to say that. The fact that you've got the Rangers involved, maybe it's something where the military should actually show a bigger strength and the police should show the support of the military by getting the National Guard in. It kind of makes them look that, hey, look, if you're going to mess with these military guys, although it's not right, they should have called the police. We're going to support them. We're going to send in the military officially, okay, legally. It's all legit to be able to support these areas to stop the crime from happening in the first place. I think that is a bloody good idea.
To Ash Street. The Hilltop Crip gang member who was arrested and found in possession of the 9mm and the pistol, Frankie Strickland, was the only man charged in connection with the shootout. He was convicted of second-degree assault and was later sentenced to 22 months in prison. The military officially considered the incident a matter of self-defense for the off-duty Rangers.
right, it's nice that the military is actually sticking up for these guys, okay? I've seen over the past 10 years a number of occasions where military individuals, both from the UK, the United States mainly, been thrown under the bus. There was a guy, I'm not going to get into this actually, there was a certain Marine who was involved in a certain something in Afghanistan. It was all over national headlines over here. And, you know, he was thrown under the bus for what he did, basically, okay? I'm not going to get any more involved in that in terms of mentioning it. You guys can do your research on it. But, yeah, the military, over the past 5-10 years, it's almost as if they haven't really got your back as like they should do. I mean, I'm talking about legally. I'm talking about, you know, the higher echelons of the military in terms of the support structures that say they're in place, but they're actually not in place when you need it. I've seen a lot of guys being thrown under the bus of recent, okay, from both sides of the water, and it's not nice, guys. It's nice to see that in this case the Army Rangers were supported, you know, by the Rangers, by the military. But then again, we are talking about 1989. Times were very, very different then. I wish we could go back to those times, you know, in terms of the support for the military. Yeah, I think it worked.
February 9th, 2010, Tacoma police and FBI launched a major crackdown on the Hilltop Crip gang and charged 32 members with up to 50 crimes, everything from theft to attempted murder and drug sales.
Wow, so they have literally had them big time.
A few years back, a Tacoma police officer said something about the shootout. He said it was the single most important incident in Tacoma that caused a change in police policies and practice.
So it worked, all right? It worked. It might have been a funny way to go about it, but it worked in the end, which, you know, if you can force change. And this is another thing, actually. When we're talking about change, sometimes change doesn't necessarily come legally. Sometimes there's new things need to be tried and tested to force and implement legal change, which is a tough one because you have to be a bit of a, what's the word? You have to be an innovator, all right? You have to be prepared to go against the bar. You have to be prepared to go against the grain in terms of what the norm is. So you have to be a bit of a maverick, really, to be able to force these types of changes. And yeah, I guess these guys were in that.
Staff Sergeant William Foulk never moved away from Ash Street.
Yeah,
and as
legend.
he predicted, he was never promoted and left the Army in 1993. He still owns the property to this day.
Wow, that is fantastic. Guys, if you like that video, that's one of my favorite videos ever. Let me find out what the channel is. It's called Popo Medic, got 409,000 subscribers as at the time of this reaction. So go give them a follow. The link will be in the description. Let them know that I've done a reaction on this video, and hopefully they enjoyed it. Guys, this is as good a story as it gets, really, and one that I've really, really enjoyed. Army Rangers smoked some Crips in 1989. Troops, smash a like button, subscribe. Members, thank you for being here. If you want to join the channel, guys, to give a bit of support to help me do these videos every day, then hit that join button. But other than that, until next time, peace.